Complacency. So in our last video, I talked about how contentment can be the superpower in order to get past all your mental struggles in this life when it comes to financial problems, medical issues, and just a whole plethora of options. A whole plethora of problems. A whole plethora of options, whatever. But basically, they were talking about complacency and how sometimes contentment as a feeling can turn to complacency as an action. And for those who don't know the difference, contentment is I have everything I need, but not everything I want. Complacency is I have everything I need, and I don't really need to go any higher than I already am. Okay? Contentment is really about your internal world, while complacency is about your external effort. Okay, cool. We got 2 minutes. Well, it's mainly about your external effort. Something I find myself caught up in is sometimes I don't feel like now luckily I'm at a stage in my life to where like I'm broke and I have no money and I'm skinny and I'm weak. So right now I'm grinding. I have places where I can go. But what I don't want to do is get to a place where I feel like I've done enough, or I feel like I've done all I can do, and like never try to shoot past anything. And not to get twisted, sometimes I do still have those emotional times where I'm just like, I'm just done. I'm burnt out. I don't want to keep going. I don't want to keep doing this anymore. And I don't want to keep going anymore. And I'm just like, I'm not where I need to be at. Like every time I'm like, well, you know what? I don't feel like going to the gym today, which was basically me for like the last 6 hours. I remember you haven't reached your goal of 225 on all major lifts. So you got to go to the gym. I got to go to the gym. I'm not in the financial situation that I want to be in. So guess what? I got to go to work. I got to invest. I got to do all that other stuff, which I've been looking into, actually. I'm going to talk about it later. But now, how do I know I'm becoming complacent? Okay, now you know what? I'm going to talk to this after I hit this set, because it'll be a lot easier to explain that way. That felt good. Okay. But after this week, we definitely go up at least 5 to 10 pounds. Woo, I'm dizzy. To know if you're falling into complacency, there are a couple signs that I look for in my personal life when I might be complacent. Okay? One of them is that's a discipline. Sometimes I don't feel like getting up in the morning and coming out here and recording and then editing and then doing basically this whole setup over and over again almost every single time I go work out. I don't like doing that. But guess what? I have a dream, and it's really up to me in order to complete it because no one else is going to do it, you know? But it also slips into other areas of my life. Like recently, I think I've been missing my protein goal a lot recently. I've been eating out more often. I've been eating out a lot of tacos, like a lot of rolled tacos, a lot of fried food, and it's coming out of in my belly a lot more. Like I basically inflated to 159, almost 160 pounds at 20% body fat, and I'm like, ew, I don't like being this size. But you know what? I realized that, I can always just lock back in, take care of business, and everything will work out, Lord willing, right? Second thing, it's got 2 minutes. Second thing is that you lose sight of your vision. Sometimes when I'm in, like, episodes, when I'm in certain emotional episodes, I start thinking like, why am I even doing this in the first place? What's even the point? You know, what's the point of being strong when everybody got a strap? Just keep the strap on me. I'm no longer underweight anymore. I don't need to work harder to get an aesthetic physique. You know, sometimes I'm thinking about, hey, you know what? It's kind of vain to get an aesthetic looking physique because honestly, I want better dating options. I don't like the type of girls that like me, I think. I'm not really good at identifying that, so I don't know. Like in my mind, a lot of big girls like me. Because when I went on the dating apps, it just wasn't good. So instead, I'm in here, you know, even though I might lose sight of my vision, I still have the discipline to come in here and be like, I do need to be stronger. I do need to look better. I do need to make more money. I do need to be more connected. I do need to try to get more downtown with friends or whatnot. But for me, I'm like, you know what? Let me do it while I still can. What was I saying? Let me do what I need to do while I still can. Because, you know, tomorrow's never insured. My health is not always granted. And all my safety nets may not always be here forever. So let's put in the work now so we don't have to worry about it later. And then the last thing is that some of the excuses you're going to give yourself is a lot of grace. Like your past effort is going to determine your today's results, right? And the thing is, right after doing 180 days of phenomenal effort, you might feel like, you know what, I can rest. But something that you may not notice is that when you rest, you don't just rest for a week. You rest for a month, and then you slowly get back into it. And by month, maybe, what, you got 6 months in, 4 months in, you're right back into it, but you lost progress. And I'm not saying that rest isn't needed. What I'm saying is that sometimes giving yourself grace is a lame excuse to stop pushing yourself forward. Because when you reach that point again and you haven't pushed past that, sometimes it's just a mental block. Sometimes it's just a physical, emotional, I don't feel like doing it, and it's super strong. So you're just like, it's just a sign for me to rest my body. But you won't know that until you push yourself, which is why I'm challenging you to keep going no matter what. So we're gonna hit this last set. I think after this we can probably go up like to 25s on both sides instead of just these 20s. But we'll see. I'm gonna pause here and then we'll come back. Now I keep stalling here, but I don't know why I'm stalling. I like mentally I feel ready, but bodily wise I just want to rest and be exhausted. Like even right now, right? I feel super like done mentally, but I know physically I can do more because I've done this before. I've done it countless times. Before I hit this weight and I only had 110 on each side, I was like, I can probably do more, and I added a 5. And after that I added a 10. And because of that, now I'm here doing 3 sets of 10. I want to say this is 175 or 165. No, I'm sorry. No, it is 65 plus 45. Whatever, I'm saying it's 175 because I think that's the math on it. So, 1 second. See, I'm stalling super hard here. Jeez. Something I do want to put into your head and to watch out for is confusing the process with you being critical of yourself. You know, consistently, at least especially in my journey, that sometimes I don't feel like I belong where I'm at just because I have so many privileges that the average person doesn't, and I'm still like finding ways to complain about it on a consistent basis in my head, you know. And something I was thinking about is that sometimes we get caught up in feeling like we don't belong someplace. don't belong someplace because of either how we got there or how we're failing along the way, you know? And something about being or feeling like an imposter is that is that you feel like you're faking it, or you're not like everybody else who's made it before you. Like none of them has ever felt the way you did right now, when they probably have. I mean, I don't know any success story where someone's just like, yeah, I knew I was gonna make it, and that's what I did, and I just made it. Magic. Like there was no hardships, no nothing. But something that, especially when you're on the beginning of your journey, is that you just gotta fall in love with the process. You know, you confuse. Let's say you're on a boat in the middle of the ocean, right? You may confuse the weather and the winds and the waves and how the current pulls and all this other stuff of, oh, you're good. Anyway, you might confuse the winds and the waves as something of your doing, when you have no control over the winds and the waves or the weather, but you do have control over what you be doing on that boat. Do you get up every morning and do you steer properly? Do you check your map? Do you look at your navigation? Do you have a crew with you? Are you keeping your crew accountable? Are they keeping you accountable? How long are you along the journey? You know, stuff like that. But consistently, just keep that in mind. Sometimes you're not caught up in complacency. Sometimes you're just caught up in the grind phase, where it doesn't feel like anything's really moving and shaking, but it's happening eventually. Like right now, especially my investment journey, the excitement of putting money in here and it's gonna grow by itself, and I don't know, is still like, it's still there, but it's not as strong as it was before. So I'm just like, okay, so what am I gonna put money in now? I'm looking for other ways to make my money grow. But the fact is that now I just have to be consistent. After I know how to invest, what to look for, all this other stuff, I now have to just fall in love in the process of putting money in every single paycheck, every single month, keeping down my expenses, eliminating debt in order to do it for a long time until my death, you know? So don't get confused with the process with I think a fly just went in my nose. I don't know why I did that on camera. I'm gonna wash my hands. Basically, as I move on to my next machine, the whole point I'm making is that through your process, if you're still showing up, if you're still getting work done regardless of how you be feeling, you're still doing the work. You're still putting in the work, and you're still in the process of doing stuff. So don't beat yourself up too much, or not being in the place that you want to be at. Last thing I wanted to say was that in order to keep yourself sharp, one thing you always have to consistently do is audit your friend group, audit your circle, always making sure you're not settling for anybody in your circle. Not saying that like you need to cut everybody off. I am saying that some people aren't beneficial for the path that you're going on, and they can be put on the back burner for a little bit. Like still check up on them, still do all the other stuff, but just make sure.
Investing is all about.
Shut up. But make sure you are remaining on the path that you need to remain on, without dead weight. Really. Because some people might criticize you, might come along and critique you when they're in the same place you are. Anyway, second thing, set goals in the process. Second thing is set goals in the process. Okay? Something that we want is that we want to make $1 million, like as the result of our hard work. Something we might want to do, we want to travel the world as a result of our hard work. My thing would be book a plane to go to X place, book a hotel room after you book a plane, then after you book the hotel room, book a plane, find a tour guide. That's the difference between setting process goals and result goals, okay? Paying off your debt, $200 here, $300 there, $200 here, $300 there. Consistency. I want to be able to eliminate at least 1K of debt every 2 months or so. Because by the end of the year, I should be done. If nothing else crazy happens, I should be done with my debt by the end of the year. Anywho. Oh, and last thing, practice healthy. Now, last video I talked about content, but practice healthy comparison. Be inspired by people who are doing better than you. Be inspired by people who are leagues ahead of you, who are on their way up while you watch them go up. You understand me? But, anywho, I'm going to leave you guys here with that. The addictor's machine was taken by a couple, so I wasn't going to do that. I'll probably do it tomorrow. But, amen. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, share with a friend. TriumphAthletic.net, code MINT, MINT, for 10% off your order. I love y'all.